Hello, beautiful people. Thank you for being here today. I have an amazing episode for you with Tegan Judd, who's an energetic mentor and a psychic medium from Australia. In this episode, we go into all things related to energetic protection, working with your ego, and just more generally, what on earth is going on earth on a spiritual scale. And we talk more about how to play the game of life. So stay tuned, and sending you all so much love. Hello, Tegan. Thank you so much for coming on my podcast, Wisdom Within. I'm so grateful to have you here. And let's just start by, in 30 seconds or less, why should someone listen to this episode? Do you have an intuition of anything that's going to come through today?
Energy management. There's something that kind of has just been such a big theme and that has been coming up for me and in my readings. And it has just been about managing energy and having really good, healthy, energetic boundaries. You know, I feel like we all are walking around with energy and crap that doesn't even bloody belong to us. And just to understand that what we may be feeling may not even belong to us. It may have nothing to do with us. It may be something that we've picked up from someone or something else outside of us.
And this is so powerful because when we're holding on to things that aren't even ours, a lot of us are identifying with these things. And once we realize that they're not even ours, we can just let go of them with so much ease and understanding. And create so much more freedom in our bodies and in our minds.
And actually creating that peace for that, because even like what you have just said, it's like that permission. Like we want to let things go. We can let them go, but we don't. It's like we need permission to do that. And like we hold on to all shit. Can I swear on this podcast? Because I also swear.
Hell yeah.
Okay, good. We hold on to so much shit, and like something may happen in the past. You know, you may go through, I don't know, a situation with a relationship or a friend, and then you just find yourself holding on to it. You're holding on to all of this energy, which again doesn't belong to you. You need to come to peace with it, but you actually need the acceptance to be able to let it go. And then that comes with this permission that where does the permission come from? It's like we need it. It's really great.
Yeah. Maybe this moment for you is your permission. So for someone who knows that I think we're all holding on to things to an extent because we're constantly interacting. Like we don't live on, like we're not an island. So I definitely have been struggling with this, which is why when you said to talk about it, I was like, this is great for me too. Yes! Because I think when I'm traveling and I'm alone, it's a lot easier. But then when I come back into a busy city like London, I find it really intense. And what tips or tricks or little things are there or big things are there to help people like protect their energy?
I like Talia, like I love this question so much because energy is everything. We get that. We know that. And like, so any little thing, you know, before we obviously started, we set a really beautiful intention, which sets an underlining current for what's going to come up in this session.
Yeah.
And it's like, if you're walking around, just say, for example, I actually had this like recently, and I shared this on my socials that I had a reading with a client, and I'd already set the beautiful space, the intention. I didn't have any sage or Palo Santo or anything burning. Anyway, long story short, that reading, it was super explosive, super expansive, that when I actually walked out, the sun was hitting the window just at the right time, and you could visually see all the energy moving out. And that was like a good interaction. What about all of those interactions, like say you have an argument with a partner in the kitchen, and that energy is just sitting there and festering and festering. And so I really encourage, like, we don't have to go to huge extremes to shift energy. Like you don't need to, I'm huge on grounding. And I think that we all need to be taking our shoes off and grounding to the earth's frequency. But if you don't have access, if you can't even do that, if you live in an apartment, if you lived in London and like there's nowhere where you can go and get grass, or
Yeah.
literally just open your windows. Like
Mhm.
open your windows and let air go out. You know, every single interaction we have, you know, you walk past someone at the street and you don't have to be intuitive to know they're having a shit day and they're
Mm.
just like energetically dumping
Yeah.
on you. And if you're open, which if you're probably listening to this podcast, you probably are.
Yeah.
And so you just are creating like these umbilical cords of connection with all these people around you. And
Mm.
so like things that I do is open my windows, sage, Palo Santo, incense, or I just like will have a shower and
Mm.
just like wash it all off, work with the elements. Like again, it doesn't have to be crazy.
Yeah, this was something that came through for me is like working with the elements because our earth and like giving it back to Mother Nature, like the earth can handle it, which is why grounding and using water, using wind, all these things, like these things are so available to us.
They're free.
But we keep things so stored inside. But it's most people know, like I don't know of anyone who doesn't enjoy connecting with nature, and yet I'm like to people, oh, like if you're feeling this, like why don't you go spend time outdoors? And they're like, yeah, I haven't been outside in a long time. I'm like, go do it. Go do it.
Exactly. There's that I don't know if you've seen it on Instagram or TikTok, but it's like this funny reel where someone is saying, "Oh, I'm having a really bad day," and the person goes, "When was the last time you drank water? When was the last time you got some fresh
Mm,
air? When was the last time you stopped scrolling on your phone?" You know, we all get stuck in the doomsday scrolls and then we wonder why we feel like shit.
exactly.
Like
Yeah.
if I ever feel like crap, I'm like, oh, when was the last time I like got some sun? You know,
Yeah.
connected with the father. When did was the last time I connected with the mother and put my soles of my feet or my bum or whatever on the
Yeah.
earth, you know?
Yeah. So powerful.
Mm,
So obviously, if every person took that responsibility to do that, I think it would be a lot easier. But what about if you're like living with people or your family members are not people who understand this and you're around this energy a lot?
mm,
What would you say to someone who is in that situation?
mm. This is a big one because I was actually just working with one of my one-on-one clients on this, literally just about boundaries.
Mm,
And, you know, we cannot control anyone. We can't control anything. But what we can do is regulate ourselves and create
yeah.
great boundaries. You
Mm,
know, it's like if you want to tolerate, the thing is with family, it's such a hard one because it's like they're our family and we've got to love them and accept them for who they are and all of that
yeah.
kind of stuff. But it's like if they're not showing up and adding value to us, you don't have to cut them out, but you put up a boundary and go, okay, that's not the type of energy, that's not the frequency that I align with. Does
Yeah.
that make sense?
Yeah, it does.
It's actually, I feel like an inward push out. That's
Yeah.
what's kind of coming through right now is like it's coming inward, being strong in yourself
Mm,
and strong in what you believe, regardless if it's friends and family. You know, in the past, I've had many different relationships with friends, partners, and I've just gone, you know what, if this doesn't align with me, of course, sometimes it's harder than, you know, I'm human. Sometimes it's harder to let go of particular things, but I've come to a place where it's like if that friendship or that relationship does not add value, I'm happy to still keep that relationship at arm's distance, at arm's, you know, whatever the term is for that, but to know that, okay, my worth is my worth. And I think it
mm.
comes down to that self awareness and bringing that energy back within. Did that make sense? I feel like I just went on a whole fucking tangent then.
No, no, that makes a lot of sense. It's about, well, that's why like I call my podcast Wisdom Within, because I think on the spiritual path or any path, it's all about like coming back to you because you can't know what's good or bad for you if you don't check in with yourself.
I love that, Talia. Like, exactly. If you're not checking in with yourself, like, I literally can't even say anything more to that. That is just amazing.
Thank
It
you.
is just If we're not checking in with ourselves, how can we go out and be able to serve or show up? There was something that I actually just feel called to share, and it's like it's actually our responsibility as humans to regulate our own emotions. We've
Mm.
all done it, we'll call a girlfriend or we'll call a partner or whatever and like dump on them, like emotionally dump on them. But it's like that's actually really bad. Like it's
Yeah.
our responsibility to regulate ourselves enough to then be able to have that conversation with someone. Does that make sense?
That makes so much sense. I think the reason why this fails to happen is because people live in a victim mentality. So they don't even see, they're like,
Mm.
oh, but I'm like this, because of that, because of this. Like they're always finding a reason. It's because I'm busy. It's because my job's stress. It's because of this. But that's why the shift from victim to creator, where you come back to you and realize that you have the power over your life, that's when things can start to shift. So that's an important shift to happen. So is anything coming through of like how people can like come from victim to creator? Because it's such an embodied realization. Because I live in my life, I try to tell them like, but you have power over this, and they're like so in their ego and they're so stuck, and I can see it, and I'm like, it's also not my responsibility to try convince someone of their own
Yes.
power. You have to realize it yourself.
And that's, I think, another hardest thing of being like a healer and working in this space is because it's like we can see your higher self. Like we can see
Yeah, I look
what's
at
coming
someone
in
and I'm
for
like, I
you.
can see everything you can become, but you just have to realize yourself that you can become that. I can't do that
Yeah.
for you.
Mm. And the victim piece is so fucking big. It's like that ego versus intuition. Your ego is going to keep you stuck. It's going to keep niggling at you and wanting to keep you small and keep you safe.
Mm.
Your intuition is about that expansion. It's about that evolution.
Yeah.
And yeah, and I love the piece of the victim or to the creator because the victim is such a big piece. And I'm like, even my ego right now is like, oh God, she's mentioned the V word. Like, because I actually did like a whole process on this,
Mm.
I think like 2 weeks with myself. And, you never stop evolving, you never stop healing. And I
Yeah.
was like, you know what, my victim's good, my ego's doing all right. It's probably coming from my ego right now, but that's okay. And I did this exercise on my victim and realized like I wrote down all the times that I have played the victim that I could remember. Like I wrote like 5 pages. And I
Yeah.
was like, oh my gosh, I am just like in the victim here, in the victim here, in the victim here.
Wow.
Little things, really small things, but realizing that that is a mask that we all can wear. We can wear a people pleasing mask. We wear the victim mask. We wear the controller. We wear the I'm a boss woman and I have it all together. So I'm not going to ask for help. We've
Mm.
all worn these different masks at different times.
Yeah.
And it's just really interesting. It's like, when that was coming up that I worked through, it's like I really had to acknowledge all of these parts of where I was playing
That
the
and that
victim.
takes courage. It takes taking responsibility. And that is the thing that I think people struggle to do, because that takes a lot of power and like acceptance.
Mm. And you have to take the responsibility of that, instead of blaming someone else or blaming whatever. It's like, if you get your top stuck on a doorknob, it's like not even blaming the doorknob, just being like, probably because I'm just a bit rushed at the moment. I'm not really present. And it's like you have to take that accountability because in that accountability is where you quantum shift. If you're accountable for your actions and the energy that you're putting out, you fucking quantum shift, like period.
So for people who don't know, what do you mean by quantum shift?
So, quantum shift, what it looks like for me is like literally shifting timelines. Now, if you don't know what timelines, how to even explain, sorry, if you don't understand fully what a timeline is, for me, it is like I'm living in this particular reality, you're living in that particular reality. There is another reality that is of a higher self, a higher purpose. And you can shift literally by just shifting some perspectives into a completely different reality and a completely different perspective. where you can show up as more peace, more alignment to who you truly are.
Mm.
I think there's probably a more technical way for quantum leaping. I don't know if you know of more of a technical way, but I try to keep it quite simple, and just be like, there is another timeline, there is a higher self of you. If you can forgive and accept and take accountability for some of your things,
Yeah.
then you shift up to the next level. Think of it like a game. I like to look
Mm.
at it like a game. Life's a game. It's a video game.
Yeah.
It's like
One, yeah, it literally
you,
is.
it is. Well, we live in a simulation, so I mean, it's somewhat correct. But it's like you collect all these coins and all of these things on this level and this frequency, then it's like, boom, you level up to the next frequency.
And sometimes you go back down a little bit and then you come back up. It's like a,
Oh yeah.
yeah.
You can go back down a level.
Mm. And what is the power of seeing life as a game, do you think?
Well, games are fun.
You play a game, so life becomes a play.
Oh, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just like this game, and it's like it also takes that perspective shift from your ego to that higher self, because it's like, oh, well, it's just a game. Like life's just this little fun game that it's not happening to me, not
Happening
poor
for you.
me.
Happening for you, yeah. So what do you think a healthy relationship with ego looks like? Because it's not something we can completely get rid of, is it?
No. And I actually speak on this a lot. You know, there's a term ego death, and I've had a love-hate relationship with this wording, because I understand we go through levels, but levels of like uncovering the ego. But in like this spirituality terms, you know, sometimes we can overuse it like, I'm going through this ego death, I'm going through this ego death. But it's like, but ego is still a part of you. It's like the yin and the yang. It's like, it's who you are. You cannot survive without the ego. I have come to a place, for me, is like, I'm a Capricorn. I'm quite a choleric personality. I can see things quite clearly and quite structure, hence I'm a psychic, but it's like I can see things quite clearly and I can see the steps forward. That's
Mm,
my ego. So it's like, okay, well, how can I utilize that to then serve people and serve in my purpose?
mm,
So work with my ego with the validation. If my ego needs some validation, you know what? I'll give it to it in that healthy way. Does that
yeah,
make sense? Because it's like working with you can't work against your ego. And I see it all the time. It's like we go on this path where it's like, I want to disassociate with my ego. I want to disassociate from everything. But it's like, you can't live without it. So it's like, why don't you become best friends with it
yeah,
and play off it and have fun with it? And it's like a game. It's like, oh, I'm going to get my ego. So for me now, it's like, if my ego wants to be seen, it's like, okay, let's do it positively. Let's run a masterclass. Let's help people. And my ego
mm,
is like, fuck yeah, but we're being seen. So it's all happy. But you know what I mean? I'm working
you're
with
using
it.
it. Yeah,
I'm using it while it's trying to use me.
yeah. I think the way I understand ego death is that for people who don't have this awareness, when they start to, they have to like let go of these stories and parts of themselves. And like that's almost an ego death, because it's like
Mm,
all these characters and masks that you play have to like die in order for you to like understand and birth who you truly are. And part of that is like a huge grieving process, which is why it's called a
mm,
death.
mm. Yeah. And I love it. It's like the way you've explained it is so beautiful and so perfect. I think it's when we overuse that we are not without ego, you know, it's like, I think it's just like this fine balance. I think
Mm,
it's always a dance with your ego and that
yeah,
relationship with it.
all of life is a dance.
Yeah, it
I'm
is.
so excited to keep picking your brain, because like I can just feel like how much we both understand about reality, and like already so
Mm.
much is coming through. So this is might be quite a broad question, but I feel like you can handle it. It's like, what is happening on Earth right now collectively for people who don't think of the world like that? with the feminine, with the masculine, with awakening.
Mm.
What on a global scale is happening here?
It is happening. Well, it has happened, actually. You know, I was actually getting downloads about this morning, and
See,
I was
that
going to jump on
everything
and
is just, do you guys see this? How just like I'm experiencing something, she's experiencing something, and then we're having this conversation, and then there's just magic coming out of it. Like, this is the way that life works if you allow it.
Mm,
Continue.
the dance, the fucking dance, which you said I
And
love. The dance, baby. Yeah. So, what is happening on Earth? What the hell on Earth is happening?
what on earth is
Um,
happening on earth?
what on earth is happening? Okay. Right now, we are just coming out of a huge eclipse. The other thing that is going on right now is the energy I'm finding is a similar frequency to 2020. And this is also just my own predictions, my own interpretation. What was the energy of 2020? Okay, it was the lockdown. Lots of fear, lots of anxiety. We have got World War III has happened. It is happening right now. And I think what's really going on, I know with COVID and everything, it was like this divide between the two worlds, the awakening and then the not awakening kind of thing. It's like we had this like dividing thing happening. And I feel like that is just still going on. I actually feel like more people are coming awake and online now than COVID. Way more. Like I mean, Tyler, like fucking way more. They are coming in drones in huge amounts.
They're
And
traveling in drones.
yeah, and I think that there is an undertone of a frequency. We could go down many rabbit holes, I'm sure we could, but I do think that there is an undertone of frequency of control and fear mongering. And so I would encourage, and I encourage all of my clients with everything that is going on in the Middle East and everything, it's like we also have to be mindful of our energy and like being aware, but not being too aware where we are back into that frequency. And even as I'm saying that, my ears are ringing because it's like we have to be mindful of what we're putting in because we cannot serve anyone or anything or humanity if we are feeding into fear.
Yeah. Yeah.
Fear is all around us. Sorry, were you going to say something there?
No, I'm saying it's so true. It's like that's something that has been a hard boundary for me to put up. But I'm like, if I want to help people heal and be in the frequency of love, like I can't give my energy to those things or let it, because it is sad, it is overwhelming. And like as sensitive creatures, like of course it's gonna affect us. And so it's like, what are you deciding to do? What are you choosing to do? Are you gonna choose to elevate the people around you by being in the frequency of love, or are you gonna like add to the separation by feeding it? And like people don't get it. People see that as selfish or ignorant. And it's like, in a way, you're like honoring the sadness of it by doing that too, you know?
Like, absolutely. There's a book, actually, my girlfriend, one of my friends was sharing this with me. There's a book called Conversations with God. And in there,
So good. I just read that
yeah.
recently.
Oh, really? Oh,
Recommend it. Go read it.
yes. And in that book, he asks, why can't to God, why can't you stop world hunger and, all of these terrible things from happening? And God turned around and said, well, I can't, but you can. If you keep feeding into this frequency of
We're the ones creating it, and we have free will.
So it's not about being naive, it's about actually shifting to a frequency. Like my partner and I are in a frequency now, and we worked really hard over the past 9 months to get to this place of our reality is full of love and peace. All I see around me is peace. I'm not naive to what's going on in the world. I'm not. I know that there is suffering. I deal with grief every single day as a medium. I'm aware that these things are happening, but my own reality, and I'm getting like full body fucking chills, my own reality is that love. I have abundance,
Yeah.
abundance of everything. And the more and more we can feed into that collectively, this shit stops. It
Yeah.
fucking stops right now.
Yeah. It has to stop within each of us first, and that's what people don't understand.
Yeah. What do you see with people? Like, what do you think's happening
Well, one thing I
collectively?
wanted to quickly comment on, well, it might not be
Mm.
quick, but one thing I wanted to comment on is like, I'm trying to work with like how to not create more separation than there already is between awakening and non-awakening.
Mm.
And that's what
Yeah.
one of my podcasts is about, because I know a lot of people who like aren't awakened, and like I'm also trying to like bridge that and show people that like you don't want to make spiritual people another group that like you're like, oh, you're not in it. You know,
Mm.
it's like, how can we all participate in the frequency of love and not create more divide by it being like a retaliation, but instead like a return to like our hearts and love.
I love that. And it's like the divide and conquer is fucking real. We have seen it throughout our entire society. You know, it's between the colorism, like racism, divide and
Yeah.
conquer. Then you've got religion, divide and conquer. You've got whatever belief that you have a particular belief. Oh, you're spiritual. You're
Yeah,
crazy. You're
exactly.
a tree
And
hugger.
they're all just labels.
It's like, fuck off with the labels. Like, I'm just, I'm as spiritual as they come and I swear all the fucking time. Like,
Exactly. And so obviously like we're stronger together, and it's about like coming together
Mm.
as humanity. And that's why I'm like, I just words even create division and labels. That's why like fixing
Mm.
your energy and just being able to channel love to people, that's like you don't even need language for that. You can heal people just through becoming pure love.
Exactly. Because what you like attracts like. And, we always hear that saying of don't ever dim your light, like just shine your light because people are attracted to it. And it is fucking true. Like
Yeah.
it is so true. Like the more and more I have stepped into my own personal power, I'm amazed. Like at the start, not as much, but now it's like once I've fully embodied and come to this other level of who I am,
Mm,
people that I never thought would have come to me are now coming to me for support and guidance. And I think you made a really good point, Talia, with the bridging of the two worlds, because this is something when I was saying that the people are awakening faster and faster is because I'm seeing that with my clients. I feel like I'm only supporting people that are going through this awakening because you've got the matrix, the system, the controlled, which we've all come from this sense. Well, not all, sorry, but a lot of us have come from this kind of energy. And then you've got the awakened, let's just say, for lack of a better word. You've got the awakened, you've got the spiritual side. But the thing is, for someone that is new to this space, they're not going to go straight into like a Kundalini awakening or go take ayahuasca in South America, are they? They need to
exactly.
feel supported across the way.
Yeah.
It's like that bridge between the two worlds. You don't have to be going and doing all of this full on spiritual stuff. You
Exactly.
can start with literally just maybe journaling something, maybe just being grateful for something, just one thing in the day. That'll
Yeah.
bring you a fuck ton of mindfulness and love just from being grateful with one thing in
Yeah.
your day.
Yeah.
Mm.
And that's the thing with like, it's all about realizing your own wisdom, your own light. But it's hard in a world that has so much darkness. And my journey has also been about how do we use the darkness, because it's a necessary part of there being light. And especially with the feminine is the darkness. And so, do you have anything to speak on about like how to create a relationship with darkness that is powerful and is used to transmute into light?
The word that is just like coming through is acceptance. Acceptance. You have
Mm,
to accept, you know, even in my journey, I have had a lot of shame. I have had a lot of guilt. I have never been, not never been, but there's definitely parts of myself that I was ashamed of, how I showed up in friendships or, the way I would have spoken or any of those things. And it's like, once I started to accept it, it actually became a lot easier.
Mm,
Yes, I've done lots of inner work and I've done all different types of healing modalities that have helped me tremendously. But it's like now it's coming to the place of acceptance, accepting that, "Well, that was just a part of my journey. That was a bit of fun. Oh,
mm,
look at me doing that. Oh," and more actually giving myself love, feeling
mm,
sorry, not feeling sorry for myself, but being like, you know, like that, that 13-year-old Tegan or that 8-year-old Tegan that went through those things. It's like, she just did the best that she could. And that's okay to
mm.
feel a bit sorry for that because of what she went through and just accepting that. Just,
Yeah. And what about the more collective darkness in the world? Because I think so many people like they're just
mm,
so bogged down by that because of how much it's all around us and so programmed. And obviously, I'm quite young, so like even me deprogramming all of this was hard. But obviously, people were starting like a bit later on. Like it's hard. It's
oh,
not. You
yeah.
take so much like commitment and discipline
Mm.
and like courage.
Oh yeah, to go against the grain. I mean, we saw it. We saw it with a lot of people. During COVID, a lot of people stood up to what they believed in during it. And I'm talking even older people, like, elderly people that stood up and they've gone through their whole life. And it's not even specifically that event. It's just like all the other events that have happened. And collectively, yeah, there is shit going on. But you know what? It's just the fact it's being brought to the light at the moment. We can see it a lot clearer now because of the way the world is going, because of this huge awakening shift. Like attracts like. People are waking up quicker than they ever have in fucking ever,
Mm,
forever. Okay, forever. And so at that rapid rate, it's creating a different frequency. And so this darkness is coming to the surface. Mm.
mm. Yeah, that's the thing. Like, in order for shifts to happen, a lot of shit has to be released, which is why, like, in COVID, if you notice, like every like political issue came up. Like it was
Yeah.
crazy. And I was just like, what is going on? Um,
Mm.
but what I want to say is that because like attracts like once you have an awakening or have the intention to understand more about what's going on, it comes. But for people who are like under a veil, like they don't have the like to attract light because they're in
Mm.
the dark. So
Mm.
what would you say for people who are in that? I mean, they might not even be listening to this, but they might be too, because I know a lot of people who, when I talk about this stuff, they're like, what are you talking
Mm. It's about just being
about?
open-minded.
Yeah.
Follow the breadcrumbs. If someone says to you something different, just be fucking curious.
Even if you don't agree, just get curious about like, why don't I agree? What belief is limiting me
Yes.
from like, why is this emotion coming up about this belief? Because I see people getting like so fired up when I say things, and it's like,
Mm.
go within, and I'm just a mirror. Like, what is this teaching you about yourself? And it's just about awareness. It's all about awareness and consciousness.
Mm. Exactly. If we can look at people that are triggering us as our beautiful guardian angels, showing us the parts of ourselves that we need to heal,
Yeah.
it's like just looking at it like that.
Mm.
But I really love what you said there. Like that was like, yeah.
So like with the awakening and with this idea of a new earth, like what is the vision for that? And what do you think the likelihood of it actually happening is? Like, what do you see?
Okay. What I see, what comes through for me is that I do see two parallel worlds. I think that we can never live, it's like light can never live with darkness, and darkness can never live without lightness. And it's like
Exactly.
there's two parallel worlds. So at the moment it's been splitting. Do I think that there is still going to be a system, a matrix, indoctrination, control, mind control, the veil? Yes, of course. Of course, it's been around for forever. But do I believe that there is going to be another sense of a society, another sense of a shift where people live freer, think freer, running their own race? Absolutely. And I think that what's happening is it's the separation that's happening at the moment. This is why we're seeing so much of it. And this is why so many people are awakening. Then they get the choice. I do know people that have awoken and that have decided that they prefer the matrix and they actually prefer that and have
Mhm.
somewhat gone back to sleep, if that's what the terms we want to use. I have seen that happen. And I'd be like, you can feel the freedom, like you said. And they said, no, it's enough. Can't look anymore. Because they don't want to go within. And that's the thing. It's like there's an element of, again, if you want the light, you've got to go within to that, some of those deeper parts of your soul, which are yuck. I will admit, they're yuck.
Yeah, and
What do you
also
think of that?
not everyone is meant to do that in this lifetime.
Mhm.
And it's also just like, how badly do you want freedom? How badly do you want abundance? How badly do you want the life of your dreams? Because like that's the vision you have to hold in order to pull yourself through that darkness. And so it's just about what are you willing to do to get that? Because I see so many people complaining about their lives, and it's like, it's not just going to change without doing anything. It's like, what are you willing to do to get the things that you want?
Yeah. And you're so true. You're so right about not everyone is here to awaken. And actually, that took me a little while when I went on my spiritual journey. I'm not sure if you did the same, but it's like you start to go through the shift and you're like, everyone needs this. Like everyone needs, it's like you've
And,
just found a new like packet of chips and you're like, everyone needs to fucking try these chips. Like everyone eats them and people are like, but that's not the flavor that I like. And you're like, but how could you not like this flavor? Like this is the yummiest flavor I've ever eaten. And like you try to get everyone to eat these chips.
yeah.
And then when they don't like it, you take it personally and you're like, and I had to really work through that. And now
Yeah.
I'm at a place, it's like, if they choose to, that's their choice, you
Yeah.
know?
And also this realization that there's no right or wrong.
Exactly.
You're free to do what you want.
God gives us this beautiful, the creator also, by the way, I just use the word God. It's just the word that I use, but it's like universe, greater power, whatever we want to use is absolutely perfect. It's like God gives us this beautiful free mind to choose whatever we want to experience all the different flavors of life. Like, why not try it all? You know,
Yeah.
why not get to
That's how I
experience?
feel. I just want to experience everything that I can, because that's why we're here, right? For me, that's why.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for listening, everyone. If you would like to book a session with Tegan, she's amazing. She has so many offerings. You can find her website and Instagram in the show notes. I'd, as always, love to hear from you. I'm about to leave for a yoga retreat in Nepal, and then I'm heading to Bali, which is really exciting. So follow my Instagram for my journeys and adventures. Next week on Wisdom Within Wednesday, we will be talking about all things related to mediumship and life on the other side. So I'll see you there. Bye.